So, let's talk about light and dark. You know, we have this idea, I think a lot of times, whether we intend to have that or not, that darkness is somehow bad. And of course, in all kinds of writings and music, it's, that duality makes things a little bit more interesting. But what I do is I work with ancient languages. And one thing that's very intriguing is that in ancient Aramaic, which is my main language, being an Aramaic wisdom keeper, in Yeshua's language, the word darkness, it sounds like this, chashuka. Chashuka. It sounds like you're kind of clearing your throat, chashuka. And that's the word darkness, but all that it actually meant was unknown. Just means I don't know what it is. And there's this great interplay. We're honoring the sun. And I'm looking at this cross here, and I can put the sun, the S-U-N-S-O-N, right in the center, because the sun is at the center, the cosmic center of the wheel. What's the wheel? Galilee. Galila in Aramaic means wheel. And he was born where? In Nazareth. Well, Nazareth, Nazareth in Aramaic means initiate or initiate. What it really means is a fresh branch, to birth a branch from the direct center, from the taproot, rather than further out. And this beautiful interplay between light and dark, like the idea that the light of the sun, which was also by some metaphorically the light of God, that was called Ra. The light of the moon in Yeshua's language is Nuhra. Now, what's unique about moonlight versus sunlight? It's a reflection. So moonlight is sunlight. Well, the word for human light, human awareness, is Nuhra, which is the same word as moonlight. So if moonlight is sunlight, then human light is God light, reflected. And then that reflection, sometimes we can maybe not see clearly and not realize that the only reason there's any darkness in our life is because we're not willing to look. And I'd like to quote St. James Buffett, rest in peace, when he said that there's a thin line between Saturday night and Sunday morning. And he said the cosmic bakers took us out of the oven just a little too early, and we're all just a bunch of half-baked fruitcakes. Meaning what? Meaning that we're not done. There's this, especially in sort of the new age and new thought and the internet, this idea that we somehow have to figure it all out right now. And that we somehow have to it's an interesting thing. The word excruciate comes from the Latin root that means to suffer at the crux. And intriguingly, the crux, that the north and south, the up and down, the vertical of the cross is an ancient symbology that represented our eternal nature. Unborn, undying. In the words of St. Francis of Assisi, what you're looking for is what is looking. Meaning what you're trying to become more of, you already are. And then that horizontal parts are humanus in Latin. That's the human self that again strives and begs and pleads and studies to become what we already are. And we suffer at the cross point. And the part of us that dies on the cross is the part of us that's not even real in the first place. It's got a name. In Koine Greek, it was ego, like the waffle, the little round waffle. We say ego now, but it was ego. In Aramaic, the word was ape, okay? Well, ape is an intriguing word. It was translated as hypocrite. But ape is the same word, as an example, in Matthew 27:51, when it says the veil of the temple. Technically, it says the veil in the doorway or the portal, tareya, of the temple, the haikla, was rent in twain from top to bottom. Well, where's the temple? That word veil, ape, That's the same word as hypocrite. What does it actually mean? It would be equivalent to the Latin persona, and it means mask. So they wouldn't have heard all this modernized ideas of a hypocrite. When he used that word, that in which you judge another, you are guilty of practicing, they would have heard, oh, it's the mask that an actor wears in a divine play. Ultimately, by the end of the play, the point is to drop the mask. How do we do that? By the acknowledgement of the present moment. When Laura was talking about now, she's talking about the present moment. And how do you do that? By being in spirit. What's the word spirit? In Latin, spiritus. What does that mean? What does spiritus mean? Anybody know? It means breath. The word in Aramaic is ruha. In Hebrew, it's ruach. In Arabic, it's ruch. So what does it mean to be spiritual? You don't think about that when you think about Christianity. As a matter of fact, that word rucha means literally frequency or vibration. That includes breath. It includes heartbeat, drumbeat, magnetism, the heat that you feel on your skin from the sun. Not the heat itself, but the experience of feeling it. Because spirit in Aramaic is a feminine term. What does that mean? It means that, like if I say to you, what do I feel on my arm? What's that? See, we think of that as breath today, but what I feel on my arm is hot air. In Yeshua's language, breath was not the hot air that moves through your lungs. It was your perception of its frequency or its movement. Take a breath. It's going to feel like it's going over top of your head, but it's not. What's happening is, I'm not saying anything complex. What's happening is you're holding on. You're holding on to your programming. So just take a breath. And I have a way to help you let go of that. Because in ancient Aramaic, the language was very much about speaking of frequency and vibration. Just an example, if I say, verily, verily, I say unto thee, you must go see the new whatever movie or something. Nobody says that. Verily, or assuredly, I say unto thee. Do you think he ever said those words? They didn't exist. That word verily or assuredly, you know what it is? It sounds like this in Aramaic, amen. It's the proper pronunciation of amen. And it means I am absolutely affirming to you. So it's interesting how the frequency of his language becomes something very important because we don't realize we're having a relationship with these English words on a page that have almost no connection to the ancient understanding of it, except for in one place. So what I'd like to do is, and I encourage you, they're recording this, go back and watch this. Watch it a few times. You'll pick up a little bit more. Again, it's not complex. This is not rocket science. This is God science. But sometimes it takes a few repeated hearings before you go, oh, wait a second, I didn't even hear him say that. If you understand what I'm saying. So what I'd like to do is actually tone a little bit of a poem. I did this last year, and on the way here, I'm like, maybe I'll do something different. And then I saw that it was in the program. I'm like, oh no, I'll do it again. But because it's so beautiful and it's so rich. And what I'd like to do is offer you the Aramaic Lord's Prayer. So this is the Lord's Prayer in his language, in an ancient dialect, as best as we know that it was pronounced, because nobody fully knows. So I'm just like going to totally make it up and you won't know the difference. Oh, I'm just kidding. That's the fruitcake part coming out. But thanks, St. James. So all you need to do is be open and just allow me to take you on a little bit of a... mea nithgudashishma Tete Malkuza Nihoetz Viana Gaikana Washmea up Bearea Hablan Lachmadasun Kanan Yaumana Washbuklan Chaubain Ktahain Aikana Dabhanan Shwakan Lachayavain Wila Telan Lenesiune Yelapatsan Min Bisha Mitu di delaki Mankuthak Wahal Wateshbukta Lealam Almin. In closing, let's tone one word one time. Like this sounds like this. Just listen. Amen. One big amen, okay? And then back to silence. You ready? Get a big, beautiful rucha, big breath. And in closing, I just repeat that one quote, not from St. James, but from St. Francis. Really let this in. Take a breath. What you are looking for is what is looking. And so it is.